Good morning, my book-loving friends. I'm Mary, and you're watching Rocky Mountain Gardens. As part of my Cold Days and Warm Hearts winter series, today I am going to be sharing with you some of my all-time favorite books. These are fantastic stories that are going to take you through these cold, dark winter months. And if you like to sit by a fire like I do and have a nice warm drink and read a engaging story, well then you are here in the right place. Today, like I said, I've got a stack of books here and we're going to go through them one by one. And I also will be listing the titles and the authors down below in the not the comment section, but in my little description box, underneath my video. And so take a look if you'd like to check any of these out from your library. And because I am a librarian, I am a big library user, and I recommend it to you as well, unless you like your very own copy. These are all available, I think, through Amazon. And they're just, like I said, fantastic reads. So let's get started on these books. The first one I'm going to share with you is called, bad glare, The Alchemy of Murder. And this book is written by McCleary. And this is the first in a series of mysteries. If you like a good mystery, these are fantastic. McCleary's main character in these stories is the famous reporter Nellie Bly. And she is a true character from history, one of the very first women reporters who traveled around the world. And she gets involved in a murder mystery in Paris in 1889 during the Paris World's Fair. And she draws into her story a lot of famous historical characters like Jules Verne to help her solve the mystery and catch this notorious criminal. And so it's very accurate historically, especially with the portrayal of Nellie Bly and who she was as a, like I said, a very famous female reporter. I think you will enjoy it, particularly if you are a mystery lover. So check out The Alchemy of Murder. My next book is an amazing story called, and it's got one of the longest titles I've ever seen on a book. It is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And it's written by two women, Mary Shaffer and Anne Barrows. Interestingly, Mary Shaffer began to write this book, and I think it was her daughter or her mother, I can't remember right now which, Anne Barrows completed and published the book. She did not totally complete it before she died. And so, the story of the authors is a little bit poignant, of course, but this is a book that is written with a series of letters, and I normally do not like that kind of story. I just like a straight narrative myself. But I have to say, as I was reading this book, I didn't even notice that it was just a series of letters. It is put together and the story flows so smoothly. And this is about a group of book lovers who lived on Guernsey Island during World War II. And it tells a little bit of the history of the Channel Islands, which I didn't even know before I read this book. The Channel Islands are owned by England or Great Britain, but they are very close to France. And so the Germans actually moved in and occupied Guernsey Island during World War II. So this story takes place in the 1940s, and it tells about how they created this little book society in order to use it as a cover for themselves to protect themselves during the German occupation. And the characters are so engaging, and I don't know, it just makes you want to go to Guernsey Island, I must say. In fact, we read this in my book club, and all of the ladies in my group, we all wanted to take a trip to Guernsey Island after we read this story. It was so fantastic. So it is, again, the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Okay, another book club favorite for my book club was this one by Maeve Binchy, and it is called A Week in Winter. And this is another story that takes place not in the US, but in Ireland. Well, most of the story takes place in Ireland. It's the story of a young girl who leaves Ireland with her, I guess he was her boyfriend at the time, and they move to the United States, to New York, and he turns out to be a real scoundrel and basically just deserts her there. And then she goes back to Ireland and is able to purchase a small rundown mansion that she turns into sort of like a bed and breakfast. And it's right on the sea in Ireland. And oh my gosh, the descriptions of that area of Ireland and the people in the story you just grow to love. And she eventually opens up her B&B and just finds happiness there, living amongst people who become family to her. And you know, the setting in Ireland is fantastic, and it's just a lovely tale. And of course, it will make you want to visit Ireland as well. But oh my gosh, was it a lovely, lovely book. I highly recommend A Week in Winter. Next, for all the nature lovers out there, let me introduce you to this book called The Big Year. And The Big Year was written by Mark Obmascik. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but he is a journalist and a birder. And in case you didn't know, birders are people who have the hobby of bird watching. And every year there is a contest that takes place in the United States. It is called The Big Year. And it is a contest to see how many individual species of birds that you can sight during a year. And it starts on January 1st each year. And this book, you might recognize some of the characters on the book cover. This book was actually made into a movie starring Steve Martin and Jack Black and Owen Wilson. And oh my gosh, these guys are all comedians, but you know, although there are some funny parts in the movie as there are in the book, it is such a lovely story of three men, not these actors, but in real life, three men who were competing against each other to win the big year, the year that they were doing this contest. And I learned so much about birding and about different species of birds when I was reading this story. But it's not heavily scientific. It's more the story of each of these men and their lives and how they got interested in birding. And I know it sounds a little odd for a story, but oh my gosh, it is such an engaging story. I think you would really like it. And honestly, ever since I have some friends who are birders, and you know, I've been wanting to get into that hobby for quite some time, and I have so many hobbies already that it's hard to add something else to the mix. But anyway, I think you will really enjoy this story. Number 5 in my selection today is called Elephant Company. Let's see if I can show it to you without so much glare. There it is. You can see some of the elephants. This book is written by Vicki Constantine Croke, and it is such an amazing historical tale. If you like history, and this is a nonfiction book, if you like history and World War II history in particular, this one will really appeal to you. But if you love elephants, you'll enjoy it too, because this is a story of a young British man who leaves England after World War I, and he goes to Burma and becomes an elephant handler. And in the course of this, of course, he has to learn all about elephants and how they interact with each other, their personalities, and oh my gosh, I learned more about elephants by reading this story than I ever had imagined. And it is, oh, you will just love elephants even more if they're one of your favorite animals after you read this. But he is there in the 1940s during World War II, and you might know that the Japanese army invaded Burma, and he did his best with other British soldiers in Burma to use elephants to fight the Japanese, but also to save the elephants, because the Japanese were killing them and also using them as sort of beasts of burden until they, would just die. They were very cruel to the elephants. So you will learn so much, a little chapter of history that I didn't know much about. And I think you'll really, really love it if you're someone who thinks elephants are one of the coolest animals. So check this one out, Elephant Company. And last but not least is a Fannie Flagg book called The AllGirl Filling Station's Last Reunion. Another Fannie Flagg book. If you saw my Christmas recommendations for books earlier in December, you'll know that I recommended a Fannie Flagg story then. And this one is another story that takes us back to World War II and to some very heroic girls who worked as pilots for the Army Air Force during World War II, and tells their story. It's a little known chapter of history also. Now, this is a fictional story, but it accurately portrays the story of these women pilots during World War II. And it is quite a story. It's very poignant, and oh my goodness, Fannie Flagg is such a wonderful storyteller. So this is another book that I highly recommend to you. And you can choose any one of these 6 for winter reading this year. And I really hope you take advantage of your public library, or as I said, you could purchase them on Amazon as well if you'd like your own copy. But please go out and get a good book and sit down and enjoy a wonderful experience with reading. I find it so heartwarming and fulfilling. And when we can't be outdoors so much during the winter time, reading is a wonderful pastime to help you get through those cold months. So I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to some excellent stories for your, you can choose one that appeals to you, or maybe read all 6 if you have the time. But take care, and don't forget to check out my winter series called Cold Days and Warm Hearts. And you could even subscribe to my channel if you like. So I will see you in the next video just in a few more days. Take care now.